All right, so get this. Way back in the winter of 1974, this brilliant and, let's be honest, pretty eccentric psychoanalyst named Jacques Lacan starts one of the weirdest seminars of his entire career. His big idea? He wanted to draw a completely new map of the human mind, but not with, boring charts or diagrams, but with a simple knot. He was trying to show us, not just tell us, how our whole inner world actually holds together.
But here's the kicker. He almost didn't even do it. He walks into this packed room, and the first thing he says is that he has absolutely zero desire to be there. Can you imagine? He said he was tired, fed up with his own school, and basically felt like the whole thing was pointless. It's such a strange way to start, but honestly, it's peak Lacan. It just perfectly sets the stage for a thinker who was always ready to challenge everything, including himself. So after leaving everyone hanging for weeks, wondering if he was even going to come back, these notices finally go up. And the title for this grand new project, this whole new map of our minds, it was bafflingly simple. That's it. RSI. Just 3 letters. So what on earth could that possibly mean? And how could 3 little letters explain the entire mess of human experience? Well, to get there, we first have to understand the huge problem Lacan was trying to fix. You see, Lacan felt that the old models for the mind, especially the ones he got from Freud, were just wrong. They were built on a visual idea that he thought wasn't just simple, but actually really misleading. Well, think about it. The old models always kind of pictured the psyche as a container, like a bag that holds all our thoughts, our memories, our drives. But for Lacan, that was a huge problem. It creates this false idea of a clear inside versus an outside, and it suggests a hierarchy, which just doesn't feel right. It doesn't capture the dynamic, interconnected, and frankly messy reality of our mental lives.
Lacan even had a nickname for Freud's model. He called it a geometry of the sack. He pictured it as this flat 2D drawing of a bag that separates what's inside us from the world outside. Lacan was like, no. What he wanted was a 3D structure where everything depends on everything else, where no single part is the boss. He needed to get away from a simple drawing of a sack and build a real, working, 3-dimensional model of the mind.
So here's his big idea. He proposed that our reality, our psychic reality, is made up of 3 totally distinct but completely interwoven dimensions. He called them registers. And these are our 3 letters, R, S, and I. First up, we have the real. Now, this is not reality like you and I talk about it. It's kind of the opposite. The real is the raw, chaotic, often traumatic foundation of everything that we can never, ever fully put into words. It's that unnameable void, the stuff of pure anxiety that our minds are always trying to pave over with meaning. Next, there's the symbolic. This is the world we're all born into. It's the world of language, of laws, of culture, of social rules. It's this massive, pre-existing structure that literally shapes who we are. It gives us the words we use to think and the rules we live by. Lacan called it the big other, this shared system that organizes our world and gives it meaning, but also kind of traps us inside it. And finally, there's the imaginary. This is the world of images, of reflections, of identifying with things. It all starts with that moment a baby sees itself in a mirror and for the first time thinks, hey, that's me. It's where our ego, our whole sense of having a solid self, gets built up by copying and identifying with others. It's all about appearances and the powerful illusion of being whole. Okay, so we've got these 3 completely different dimensions: the unthinkable real, the rule-based symbolic, and the image-obsessed imaginary. So now for the absolutely brilliant part. How in the world did Lacan tie them all together? I mean, that was the million-dollar question, right? He couldn't just stack them up or link them like a chain, because that would mean one is on top or more important. He needed a structure where each one was absolutely essential, a system where they all depended on each other completely. And he found the perfect answer in a weird little corner of mathematics called topology. He found his model in this thing called the Borromean knot. It's this ancient symbol that has a truly unique property. It's made of 3 rings, and if you look closely, no 2 rings are actually linked together. And yet, the whole thing holds. For Lacan, this was it. It was the perfect physical metaphor for 3 things that are totally separate, but somehow completely inseparable. Okay, so check this out, because this is what makes the knot so special. If you have a normal chain and you cut one link, the other 2 stay hooked together, right? Simple. But with the Borromean knot, something incredible happens. If you cut just one of the rings, it doesn't matter which one, the other 2 completely fall apart. They were never actually holding onto each other. They were only held in place by the 3rd one. For Lacan, this wasn't just a cool trick, this was the human psyche.
All right, so now that we have the structure, let's look at how Lacan actually used it. Because for him, this wasn't just some abstract idea. He saw it as a working diagnostic tool, a real map for understanding what's going on inside our heads.
So here's the most important part. It's not just the three rings that matter. The real action happens in the spaces where they overlap. For Lacan, these little intersections are where our everyday psychological stuff happens. Our anxieties, our symptoms, our inhibitions. That's the stuff of life, right there in the overlaps.
He actually used the knot to completely rethink Freud's big ideas. So let's break it down. Take inhibition, like writer's block. That happens right where the symbolic, the rules of language, crosses over and paralyzes the imaginary, our sense of our own body's abilities. Then there's anxiety. That pops up where the real and the imaginary meet. It's that physical feeling of dread when the unthinkable, the void, breaks through our nice, neat image of ourselves. And a symptom, like a nervous twitch or something, that's what happens when the symbolic order tries and fails to slap a label on something coming from the real.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, we've gone from seeing the mind as a simple sack to seeing it as this incredibly intricate and fragile weave. Our sanity, our very sense of self, it isn't some solid thing we just have. It's the constant, delicate tension that holds these three different worlds together.
And that leaves us with a pretty provocative and maybe even a little scary final thought. The Borromean knot shows us that our whole psychic life is radically codependent. The real, the symbolic, and the imaginary have to hold together for us to function. So if this is really the structure of our minds, it forces us to ask, what happens when one of those threads is cut? What happens when the whole thing just comes undone?